Hello, I am Ms. Rocker. I am the 7th grade math and science teacher, and this is my classroom. We are in the room 32, and we have lab stations for science, have enough space to spread out some of these desks, and this is where all the math learning happens. So if you ever wonder what it looks like, where your kids are, this is it. It's exciting to have them all back in person. I have a slideshow to show you, so I'll be doing that here in a second. Just to give you information about class, my classroom expectations, and what you can expect throughout the year, and also how to contact me. So watch the rest of the video and let me know if you have any questions. My email is at the end of the slideshow, so you can just shoot me an email and ask those and get the answers you need. Thanks. This video is to tell you some of the expectations and some of the things that you should know regarding your 7th and 8th grader. First of all, the classroom expectations as students walk in the room. Expect them to act responsible, respect others, dress appropriately, be on time to school, and be prepared for class. Come to all classes and have a designated study area for doing homework. Speaking of homework, there is homework from time to time. However, there are times when we do activities that are done in class, and so the students don't have homework at home. So I know sometimes they come home and say, I don't have anything. Just later on, I'll talk about checking grades so that you can get a handle on how much of that is true and how much isn't. So just one other note, being dressed appropriately also includes wearing a mask in class and making sure they bring a mask every day. I'm handing out masks, but it would be nice if they had their own so that I didn't have to hand out so many. I'm going through quite a few each day. So please make sure that they have something to wear in class. Thank you. So the school schedule, when they come in every day, it's from 8:20 to 9:45, basically is math. And they come in at 8:20. We have breakfast available for all students. They eat breakfast and work on Study Island, and then we do a math lesson. And then somewhere between 9:45 and 10 o'clock is pretty loose. We do science. And so, and that changes. But basically, students are with me from 8:20 to 10:25. 8th grade starts with me. So math and science for 8th graders is from the 8:20 to 10:25, and the 7th graders in language arts. We have a 10-minute break, and then they switch, and I get the 7th graders for math and science from that 10:35 all the way to 1:25 with lunch in the middle. And so we have PE 4 days a week, and we have elective 4 days a week, Tuesday through Friday. On Mondays, there's no PE and no electives because that is our early release, and on Mondays we release at 1:40. So we don't have the PE and elective time. So each of the students has Google Classroom, and where I relied on it extensively last year, this year I'm not as reliant on it. I have been updating it as we go, and I hope to be able to do that as we go. It's sometimes hard when I hand out a worksheet to get the digital form up, but I have been trying to do that. So I just want to show you real quick. So this is Google Classroom for 7th grade. You'll see a stream, so it's just kind of a chronological order of all things posted. But on this classwork tab, you can see by week. Last week was week 1. This week is week 2, what we have done. And so if a student is absent, that is one way they can access that material. Some of it's online, some of it's worksheets. And so they can access some of that stuff and try to do some of that while they're out. But this is a good way to see what's going on as far as that goes. That is the 7th grade, and the 8th grade looks like this. Again, the stream, and then the classwork. Week 2, and then week 1, and all the classwork that we've done. Okay, so that is how I try to organize work. Like I said, it's a little different now being back in class primarily, but I'm still going to try to update these. Okay, so that is Google Classroom. So you can have your students, if you have access to a computer, show you what's going on. It can also be accessed by phone if the child has the access code. They can go on phone and log in with their JES Panthers email address to the Google Classroom app, and it actually should pull up the classes so you can check stuff online. Okay, so the students have the opportunity to check their grades. Okay, and I have handed out that information. It is in a Google Doc called a Password Keeper. They can write it down and take it home if they want to. You can contact me if you want your own personal code, parent code. I find that the student code, for some reason, is more reliable to be able to actually check. We've had problems with the parent codes from time to time. So you should be checking PowerSchool. You could check their grades. So when you pull up PowerSchool, you're going to see a big screen, and if we zero in on that, you're going to see grades, and it's going to look something like this. Now, it won't say Bennett and Rocker. I just pulled up an old screenshot. But in that regard, then it shows the grades, what they have. So if a student is looking at their math grade and they're saying, I have a D, and they're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I've turned in everything. Well, some people don't realize that these grades are a link. So you can actually click on the link. So click on the grade itself, click, and it pulls up a whole listing of all the things they've done. So and the code for that grade. So you could see what the percentage is. If it's a 40%, it wasn't done. Anything above a 40% was probably completed up to some point. You can show the score, and then you can see the code. NT for me, these are my codes for math and science. NT is not turned in. So it's 40%. NC, sometimes I use those interchangeably, but if it says NC, they turned it in, but they didn't complete it to the level of, like, they just turned it in and only filled out a couple things. So I don't see giving them any kind of credit for that. So it's not complete. That could also apply to like a computer Google Classroom assignment that they just look at and turn in and don't complete it. So they turned it in, but they're turning in blank work. So that'd still be an NC, which both of those equal out to a 40%. If a student works on an assignment, they attempted it, they went through, they completed the assignment, but they didn't do well on it. They got less than a 50% on it. We round that, it's called an ATT, attempted, but did not pass. So it's a 50%. And so they might do a math test and just really bomb the math test. And they get a 37% on the math test. So that would go in the grade book as an ATT, and it'd be a 50%. So that we don't dig them in a hole much deeper than. So it's already tough to dig yourself out of a hole when you have an F. So it's the 50% is what kind of equalizes that. We do have some important progress report card, progress report dates. So it tells you when the period ends, begins and ends. So progress report ends on the 1st of October. It's always approximately, except for conference time, it's usually 10 days from the ending to the time they get sent home. Because the next week we're putting the grades in and collecting all the elective grades and everything. And then Friday they're due, so 10/8. So that would be, it ends on Friday. The next Friday, teachers have to have everything turned in, and it goes home the next Monday. So it basically ends up being 10 days. The exception to that is the Try One report card, because we have to get those done. And then conference week starts on 11/15, so we don't get that week in between. And so we have conference week from 11/15 to 11/19. So we'll be setting up conferences with you if we don't conference with you sooner, and talking about your students' progress. So progress report for Try One ends on November 12th. Try Two ends on March 4th. Tri-3 ends on the last day of school, which is June 9th. So typically they'll go home on the 9th, but typically I know I usually cut off my grades to Friday before that last week of school and then get grades finalized. Promotion requirement, and this is important for all 7th and 8th grade. This is a simplified version of the promotion requirements, and it applies to just about everybody. The year-end grade activities are icing on the cake of the student's elementary school experience. It includes a promotion trip, which I'm crossing my fingers and really hoping we can go on this year. The promotion ceremony, which we will probably be able to move forward with, and the promotion dance. So those 3 activities require promotion eligibility. To participate in these activities, a student must maintain a 2.0 GPA for 7th and 8th grade, maintain 70 citizenship points. That's basically a behavior requirement. And we might be shifting that a little bit, but there will be a behavior component. If a student is not able to be responsible with their behavior throughout the year, they will not be eligible for these, for any 1 or 2 or 3 of those experiences. And then they must attend 85% in seat attendance. So that means they have to be here in the seat 85% of the time. And we get some people that kind of get in the habit of coming first and second block and then recess. Oh, I'm not feeling well, I go home. And it becomes a habit. And so they're really missing like a language arts block for 8th grade. It would be their language arts social studies block pretty consistently throughout the year. So we do keep track of some of those situations. And so we will be talking to you if that becomes a problem. But hopefully for the most part, that isn't a problem. If there's anything that comes up that impacts this, especially this year of COVID, and if people end up having to quarantine or whatever, then obviously we'll take that into consideration, because that's 10 days right there. And so obviously we'll take that into consideration and have to modify that somewhat based on the COVID requirements. So just know we are flexible with the times, and what needs to happen. We'll be flexible with that if possible. Okay. So the PE policy, it's been a couple years, but PE for us, every day is worth 5 points. So basically, if a student comes out, does the activity that we've asked with a good attitude, not necessarily the best athlete, not necessarily the most in shape, but working towards that goal of being in shape, they're going to keep their 5 points. And so the final grade is really based on, so 20 points per week. It's, if we add all that up and how many points they got, that's what their grade is going to be. It's based on a percentage of the points earned compared to the total points. And so ways that they can lose points would be not participating in an activity. If I say, okay, we're going to start today by running 2 laps, and they're choosing not to run any part of the 2 laps, and they're just walking with their friends and talking, they will lose, a couple points for that. If they're exhibiting poor sportsmanship or disrespect towards others or myself and Ms. Smith during the activity, they could lose a point. And so there's different things for that. But like I said, if they come out and really make an effort, even if it's not extremely athletic or extremely in shape, as long as they're making the efforts, they're going to keep their 5 points. PE notes. Student participation will be excused when a parent note is provided. If a note is provided on a day when the mile is being run, they will have to make that up. It won't just be an automatic excused. And it will need to be made and then parent notes will only excuse students for 3 consecutive days. And so then we'll need a doctor's note. And so I've got some I've already got a couple long-term modifications in without doctor's notes, but also with doctor's appointments scheduled. So that's a good thing. And we've made some modifications, but whatever the effort is. So if it's a broken arm, making sure the student can walk. That's the most important thing. So when a student gets injured and goes to the doctor and they say, okay, you're out for 10 days, then they write the note that you bring to school What are some things they can do? That would be helpful. Well, they broke their arm, so they can walk. They can't play basketball. I have to remind them of that in recess sometimes, that they can't play basketball, but they can walk, or maybe they can run, and maybe the doctor clears that. It just depends. And so have them, if possible, make some notes on the doctor's excuse for that. Okay. I've heard things like someone says, well, I've got flat feet and I can't run, but I have no documentation, no doctor's note, and no doctor's appointment scheduled. And that's a big deal. I just keep hearing the reason I can't do it, but I haven't heard any kind of, well, why? What do we need to do to make this better so that the student can be active and be fit? Those are the things that I won't be able. We'll have to just keep marking them down, and then they'll have a low grade. And so, please, I appreciate those that are making the effort and trying to get into the doctors. That's what we're looking for. So we want our students to be healthy and be able to be active. Okay, so that's the PE policy. You can contact me, preferably by email. Some of you even have my text, can text me, lrocker@jespanthers.org. And I get emails throughout the day. What I don't get throughout the day is I get the voicemail, but and it's blinking, but I don't always see it blinking. And then I'm sitting there listening. I can hear it without the kids, but I can't call you back without kids in the room, or with kids in the room. I have to wait until there's no kids in the room. But if you email me, then, if we get a second, I can just type a quick response back. And so if you could possibly write that down and make that our first contact, that would be wonderful. I would love to hear from you. And if you have any questions about anything going on, please contact me. And we'll try to figure things out. I've enjoyed what I've learned and gotten to know about class. I love seeing the 8th graders. I love being outside and seeing their faces, and just seeing the fun that they're having. And this 7th grade class is full of energy, but seem very excited to learn, and I'm getting to know them and really enjoying them. So, like I said, if you have any questions, send me an email. You can call and leave a voicemail. And I will try to be as prompt on that as I can be, getting back to you. So thank you. And I will be meeting you hopefully some other time throughout the school year.